Here we go. All right, so we have the recording going now. So yeah, here's our main view of what our software looks like. We have our team member roster here on the side, and we'll dive a little bit into that, and then we'll go from there. So you can see all of our team members are here in each of the positions in the center. And for those of you who already use this software, maybe have already seen it, you know that when you click on the team member's name, that typically would just immediately start that pending status for them to go into a break. And then we would continue on with the break options from there. But now when you click on Andrea, for example, comes up with this prompt. So Andrea is working a 4-hour shift, and so she's eligible for a 10-minute break. It also shows us the shifts that she has here. So it looks like she has 2 different positions that she's doing. And when we're looking at her account, I can go ahead and select this 10-minute break whenever she's ready to go on break. And when I do so, it starts that pending time frame. And again, it says pending the 10-minute break right there. As you know, this 0 is going to count up to reflect how long it takes for Andrea to actually start her break. The pending feature is really for anyone who is in transition. Maybe we have sent somebody else, maybe John, to go and take Andrea's position so that she can start break. So this just allows a seamless transition there. So when Andrea actually starts her break, we'll click her card one more time, and then we'll have the break feature reflect that it is, again, still 10 minutes, and we have that countdown timer from 10, and it'll go into the negative numbers if she takes more time on her break. And then when she comes back from her break, we can click that one more time, reflecting that blue status to say that her break is completed. And again, this is where all of the red team member cards still need a break for this shift, but all of the blue team member cards reflect that the team members' breaks are concluded for that day. Great. And then so Andrea is done. What's also awesome is let's look at Brendan, for example. So when I click on his, let me see here. Okay, he's also a 10-minute break. Let me see if I can find. All right, so Joseph, for example, who's working an 11 to 5 shift, he's eligible for a number of different breaks within this time frame. So we can see, again, the shift that's reflected here, and we can see the break options. He's already taken his breaks for today, but this is a good example of if, especially if your state gives different break options, or maybe your operator has just decided to offer that, you have different break options throughout the shift, then here's how we navigate that. So we have this, he can take one 30-minute break, he can take 2 20-minute breaks, or 3 15-minute breaks. And he fully has that option to choose what he would want to do. And again, it would be the same options of selecting the breaks that he chooses. And you can see these other options are grayed out because he chose the 2 20-minute break times. You can also see some information with the pending status. So this is how long he was in that pending status in transition. This is the time frame that he actually started his break, and then the duration of the break as a whole. And again, that would go into, yeah, that would reflect the full amount of time. So you can test at that point to see if people have gone over the limit for their break time, or if they are still within that time frame, or if they're under their break time, then we would be able to see that as well to say that they didn't take the full 20 minutes available. And I know for some states you have to compensate them for that, so you're able to keep track of everything within this. You can also remove the break. So if for any reason maybe you accidentally clicked on the button and started it, you can go ahead and go in here and delete the break, and it would start that over for you. Yeah. All right, let me actually move into tomorrow so I can see some other time frame options to show y'all what this would look like. All right. Looks like all of these are just going straight into their breaks. All right. Yeah, so this is the basic feature of what we have available. Yeah, you can see Kobe here. If they have multiple breaks, you can see that it looks like a loading bar as we go. And so Kobe has one of 2 breaks available to him, and he's taken one of those breaks, which is why it's half blue and half red. So when we click on his card, we can see that one of the 20-minute breaks is completed, and the other break he still needs to use. Yeah, so that's the basic features of what this looks like here. We then have a back end option that allows you to run a report to see all this information collectively, which is really nice, instead of having to select individual team member cards. So I'm actually going to have Jan, our CTO, take over this part of the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you, Carolina. You're doing a fantastic job. And so we've been working on this for several months with a lot of feedback from different customers, and we really hope that this is going to meet your needs. We'd love any of your comments about if it looks like it's going to work well, if you can think of additional functionality that you would need. I would like to show some of the, I'm just going to ask you to drive, Carolina, and I'll narrate, if that's okay.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
So
great.
on your screen, there's a new break report section on the team member roster. At the top of the screen is where we're showing that right now, where you can choose the break report option. It's going to have a lot more. We're still kind of fleshing out this part of it. So the break report management is already in play, and you can ask to have this enabled on your account if you have it now, and you can start collecting data on the breaks with all your team members. And then as these reports, they're going to be released over the next week or two, and you'll be able to get a lot more detail and analyze the data that you've already collected. But they're not quite ready. They're in a beta testing state right now. But we'll just kind of show a few different things. The top one there, Kaylee B, was eligible for a 50-minute breaks worth of breaks and has only used 30 so far. So can you expand that row, Carolina? And you'll see that on those different days, she had 10 minutes, one 10-minute break. Can we find Joseph B? I think he's got the most information on our beta account here. So Joseph B was eligible. I think I just saw it up a little bit, maybe. Or do a Control F search for Joseph and see if that'll jump right to him.
Perfect.
There's Joseph B. So over the last several days, this is what our test data has for him. He had eligibility for different breaks, and the amount that he used has fluctuated. So it's showing that he's used all of that available time or not. And let me see, there's a little bit different beta that, let me go ahead and present.
I'll stop sharing my screen here.
Can I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So for today, I can select, let's look at Kobe specifically. He's already assigned, so he's down in this area. There is a link where I can go straight to Kobe's profile by clicking this hyperlink. He's got cash card is what he's assigned for, and there's going to be a new breaks tab on each person's profile where you can see their specific breaks. And so this is showing that Kobe currently has one break that's been used. I ran this one really quickly, so it's not showing an accurate duration. And then if I go back to the layout, I want to see Joseph B. He's got a little more data on him. So under his breaks, you can see how many minutes of use there is on different. There were he was eligible for 30 minutes of break based on the option that he chose. And I'm not sure which, we know that certain states have different options that the team members can choose. So we've built this so that we have a lot of support for being able to customize these break rules. And it can customize based on 3 different criteria: the amount of time worked, and the age of the team member, and if a certain time of the day is included in their shift. In some jurisdictions, if you happen to be on the clock at 5 o'clock, then there's a specific break that's required to be given, and we support that option. And so and then the team member can be given choices, and you'll see that in this case, Joseph selected the 30-minute break option. He only used 27 of those minutes, and these others are grayed out because they were not available to him after he chose the one. But he could have chosen any of these 3 different tracks in this test data. And we're tracking a few different things here. You can see the stats that are available. He was eligible for a 30-minute break, and 3 of those minutes have gone unused so far. If his breaks were over, it looks like on Thursday, he went 1 minute over break on the second break of the day. And it was pending for 5 minutes. It started exactly at 3 o'clock, and it was a 21-minute break. So he's 1 minute over. However, the break previously, he was 2 minutes under. So 2 minutes were unused on this day and 1 minute was over. But depending on the way the break laws work in your jurisdiction, there might be situations where you would have to compensate people if they didn't use more than they didn't use the available break minutes. And might need to be the time for that might need to be added back into their payroll report, and they need to get paid for that. So we're trying to really just streamline showing what time is used versus unused. And on a given day, you can have both unused and overused, and they don't necessarily cancel each other out. Just depending on what your policies are, you would need to look at that. And in this case, the total pending time was 5 minutes for his breaks. And we can go ahead and look at some other data. So for Wednesday, only 11 of 20 was used in the first break and 7 of 20 in the second break. So there's 22 unused minutes out of 40 available minutes. It's kind of how that's showing. So this is the direction that we're heading with the reporting. We've got a couple of other ideas and polish that we're going to put on this, as well as some presets where it can bring up specifically just showing all the unused minutes and team members, so that if you do have to compensate those, getting that data out of the system and being able to show it'll calculate it for you, and it will show you exactly which team members are affected that might have missed a break or didn't use all the break minutes that they had available to them. So that is kind of an overview of the direction we're headed. I'll stop sharing, and we could move into a question and answer period if anybody would have any questions or comments that they want to share.
I want to go ahead and jump in here just as we get into this question and answer. There's several questions that are here in the chat. I've responded to several of them, but just wanting to make sure I vocalize that to y'all as well. Trey asked what if he's able to specifically create his own standards for breaks, and the answer is yes. So you will be able to put in your own qualifications for what your state and restaurant regulations look like. We base the break hours and eligibility on the actual hours that the team member works. So like Jan said, if they work specifically at 5 o'clock, then we would be able to add the breaks according to if you have a specific time frame that requires a break based on age, as we know that minors and adults sometimes have different qualifications, and then based on the total number of hours worked on the shift and what they qualify according to that. Accordingly, let's see. And then Nicholas, you had a question.
Go ahead and jump in for just a moment.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So on Trey's question, he's got some really good insights there. oftentimes team members are scheduled for a couple of different shifts throughout the day, maybe a leadership and then a front of house shift. And yes, it does combine. It adds up all the time that they're working on that day, even if it's spread across multiple shifts and hot schedules. It all gets calculated. And then we have some break rules that we configure based on that data. And there was a question about the time punches and if it can integrate with the POS system. And that integration is not available at this time. So they'll log in and out separately on the POS system. And typically there would be the shift leader who's also indicating when they're coming and leaving from break on the OneClickApp software. It is possible to let the team member do that on the common iPad, or there's different ways, or just have one person. It kind of depends it varies by store, how they run those breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And it is based strictly on the punching, the breaks as they're run, the timestamps and all the data as it's being pulled is synchronized only from the hot schedules. Again, we don't have integration with the POS data. So it's having to pull it out of when you start and stop the break and put it in the pending state based on the OneClickApp interface.
Jan, this is a really good question from Tamara. Can you add a feature that will tell you when a team member is getting close to their required break? For example, a team member must run their 30-minute break before their 6th hour. Could there be a reminder that pops up when they are getting close to that 6th hour if they have not taken the break thus far?
That's a fantastic suggestion, Tamara, and we have not identified a plan to do that right now, but we'll take that under advisement and see if we can come up. We love the input that you're giving, because our goal is to really streamline the way that your shifts operate so that you can, there's a lot of risks here that you're running. You're putting sometimes the shifts and the profitability and different aspects of the store are in the hands of teenagers, and they've only got so much training and so much capability. And the more that the software can do for them and kind of guide them so that they end up not being in violation of labor policies, that helps to cover your bases for the operator and so forth, and make sure that there's not any issues there.
Absolutely. Robert, I see that your hand is raised. Was that for your earlier question that you had put in the chat, or do you have another question? Okay, good deal. Looks like your question was answered. Yeah, other questions that y'all have regarding the break feature, of anything that we can recap for you?
So I am seeing that there's some upvotes on being able to create an alarm or something to notify when people do need to go on break. So it's really good feedback. We very much appreciate understanding that that's something that would also add more value to your operations. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it sounds like this is right in line with what California operators need specifically. It sounds like it's awesome. Maybe if not questions, if you have anything that you're specifically excited about, are the reports helpful for you and your team? Is that something that you think that you would use? It looks like Nicholas asks, is there a timeline on the rollout? I know that we're working on that now. Jan, what would be the time frame for everybody to have that?
So I don't know if everybody's aware, but there was a release that happened kind of quietly. We're planning on announcing it a little more widely, but that release happened earlier this week. On Monday, everybody was running on a new version of the app, and the advanced break management capability is already available to you now. So if you'd like us to add any of this capability that's not present in your account, just let us know and we'll reach out and create those applications. I was wondering, I see that Shayna might be on here, and I don't know if she's tried to use it or if anybody has experience that has tested the functionality. If they'd like to just express, maybe we could open the mic if anybody would like to share their information. And then I also definitely want feedback on the reports that we're thinking of. And I'm gonna try sharing my screen one more time. The question about how do the break rules get added to the system? That's something that our development team has to customize. And so you would just fill out a support request form and provide a list of the breaks in the format that you want them. And let me just kind of show briefly, I can share what that looks like.
As you're pulling that up, Lewis, it's great to hear from you that you're excited about the reports, especially for simplifying the process to pay employees who maybe don't get their full break time. So really glad to hear that you're excited about that. You getting that pulled up, Jan?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Mike just included a link here in the chat for when you want to request customization on the break management. So you can go to that link and request that there. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen, and this will show kind of the basic write-up. If you would share, if you want to do this and you can share it in this format, let me know if that comes up. So for example, we were looking into Oregon's break rules specifically, and we were able to go to the source and look at the government documents, and it was describing that there's a different length of break if they're over 18 versus if they're under 18. Minors get a 15-minute rest break, and if they're adults, they only get a 10-minute rest break, and everyone gets a 30-minute meal break on this schedule. So anyone who works more than 2 hours, at 2 hours and below, there's no breaks required. But at 2 hours and 1 minute, up to 5 hours and 59 minutes, they are eligible for one 10-minute break if they're over 18, or one 15-minute break if they're under 18. And then working between 6 hours, actually, it's really curious that Oregon does this, but if they work exactly 6 hours, they get one 30-minute break and one 10-minute break. But if they work 6 hours and 1 minute, they get two 10-minute breaks and one 30-minute break. So it's curious that there's a different requirement for working exactly 6 hours versus 1 minute under or 1 minute over. It's different. But anyway, all of these break rules and these different ages, we can code up, and it'll automatically download all the shifts that they're working from hot schedules and run these calculations, and then allocate the number of breaks, and they'll pop up automatically on their shift card based on whatever the rules are that get set up. So in this case, Kobe is eligible for 220 minutes based on the rules that were put in place for this particular store. And then I also wanted to just bring up on my screen and leave it here for a minute, the team member, the break report information to kind of show the kind of information that's available. These are the columns that we're looking at adding how many they were eligible for, unused minutes, excess minutes, and then the total time in pending. And we hope that you've got good information to manage your team.
And there will also be a feature on there that will hopefully get to look at a certain time frame as well, right, Jan? Where we can pull a report for a certain time frame.
Correct. Yeah, we'll allow you to adjust the time frame, and this data will then update to reflect the break, unused, excess, and so forth over a time frame that's selectable by you at the time that you're looking at the report. So
it looks like Lewis had a question. Is there a function to flag a name on the report if the employee did not get their break in time?
That is also not currently in our development plan. So let's discuss that a little bit. Are you just saying that if it happened outside of the available time frame, can we open the mic to some people? Like, could Lewis explain what he needs there? Do we know how to do that?
Yes. Just a moment here. All right, Lewis, if you want to unmute, perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was just referring more to California law, and if the employee didn't get their break within the allotted time, then on an HR payroll side, we would have to pay that employee an extra hour. So I'm thinking even more, I mean, what you guys have done here has made it really simple to identify whenever somebody hasn't gotten their break, but like if their name was to turn red if they didn't get their 10-minute break in the allotted time, or they didn't get their 30-minute break in that allotted time.
So that's a requirement that we hadn't been aware of, and we'll review that with the development team. And this is really good feedback. Another question was asked is how will we communicate if we decide to, or we're able to implement these other things? And we have the information of those who are here on the call, and we can send out some information and kind of update you to determine, as we determine what additional capability we're able to add. These are a little bit more advanced functionality, so I believe we'll push to get this, the current functionality that you see here should be fully released within about a week, where you can get to these other reports. And then we will also make sure that we're aware of this situation. So you get penalized, if I understand correctly, Luis, you get penalized by having to pay for an additional hour if the break that they were given didn't happen within a certain time window. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I think the best piece of this is that as we continue to have conversations with more operators and leaders about what functionalities they need, we can continue to learn and grow with you and make those adjustments accordingly, especially because different states have these different regulations and different restaurants function differently as well. So we'll definitely accommodate what we can in the timeline that we can. Might not all be at once, but we would love to keep going.
We love partnering with you directors and operators. You've got a complicated job. There's a lot of moving pieces, and the more you can share about things that we could add that will streamline your jobs, we're very open to that. We want to make it as valuable as it can be. So
thanks, guys.
Yeah,
thank you. All right, any final questions before we wrap up this call today? We really appreciate y'all joining in and letting us take up a part of your day today, but hope that it's helpful in learning more about the software and more about how hopefully OneClickApp can help you and your team lead your team members really well.
Beautiful. Thanks for the positive feedback. We appreciate knowing that this is heading in a direction where it's going to be able to help you guys out.
Absolutely. All right, looks like we have another question coming in. If after this call, y'all have any other questions, of course, we're still fully available. Please feel free to send in one of those support tickets or send us an email directly. We would love to hear from you. Oh, here. Yeah. Trey, I'll go ahead and you can unmute, Trey.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I know some operators have allowed their team members to either help out with OneClick, and y'all have some people who work in the restaurant that are helping out with OneClick. Is that true?
There are some people, like Carolina has been a OneClick director for a long time, and she adopted it as a customer first and has been able to help us out. So yeah, that definitely happens.
Are y'all still looking for how feasible is it to have directors or whoever to partner with y'all to do that? Because I find it helpful, even retaining talent. Like afford to pay my leaders a certain wage, but you know, the more that they use this tool, if there's something that they're really interested in, they can actually have their, you know, part-time gig doing this. Because I was under the impression that y'all are also looking for people to help with this. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We'd be very open to, if you've got people that potentially will be able to help us in any way, that has an interest in just maximizing the efficiency of the store, or especially if they've got different skills that could be useful, we'd love some recommendations, and happy to have that additional help to grow.
Awesome. That would be extra income that wouldn't come from my payroll, which would be awesome.
I understand.
Who would I point them to?
Mike would be the best one.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you
Just
have
send
his-
an email to Mike at oneclickapp.com.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, we've been growing a lot, and we actually are looking for people, and it can be pretty flexible hours, part-time, different things, and people can make a significant contribution. So absolutely happy to have some recommendations and referrals. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. Thank you all so much for your participation today, for the great questions and feedback. Yeah, we will continue to grow and develop this software to really help you and help you succeed in your Chick-fil-A. I think this is it for today. So thank you all. And we'll have a recording of this webinar as well that will eventually be available on our website. So be looking out for that, especially if you want to show your team members and other leaders.
Okay, take care. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.